Have you ever wondered about your roots? The ancestry that runs through your veins, the generations of people who came before you? It's something we all think about at some point, whether it's when we stumble across an old family photo or hear a story passed down through the years. For some, understanding their heritage is more than just curiosity, it's a sense of identity, a bridge that connects them to the past. But what if one day, after tracing your family tree, you discovered something so shocking, so life-altering, that it completely shattered everything you thought you knew about yourself? Imagine finding out that your very existence, your identity, was built on a lie. No, this isn't fiction. This is real, and it happened to someone just like you. In today's story, we're going to take you deep into the mystery of a teenager who traced her family roots, only to unearth a dark, hidden truth, one that would change her life forever. Stay tuned, because the truth you're about to discover is not only mind-blowing, but it's going to leave you questioning everything you know about family, identity, and what it really means to be legally born. But first, let me ask you a question. How well do you really know your family? Think about it. Have you ever wondered if the stories you've been told all your life were entirely true? Maybe it's about your great-grandfather's war hero status, or how your grandparents met under the most romantic of circumstances. We all have these family stories, these little narratives that get passed down, shaping how we view our past and our sense of who we are. It's comforting, isn't it? The idea that everything is how we've always been told it was. But what if there's a whole different story, hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right person to uncover it? Meet Emma, a seemingly ordinary teenager living in a small town with a close-knit family. She had always been curious about her family's history, often asking her parents questions about their lineage and heritage. It was something they'd all discussed before, where their ancestors came from, the challenges they faced, the lives they built. It seemed like the perfect family, one with roots in history, full of love, and rich in tradition. But Emma's curiosity took a turn when she found an old, dusty box in the attic, filled with forgotten documents and photographs. It was an innocent enough discovery, one that might seem familiar to many of you, stumbling upon old relics of your past that had long been forgotten. But what Emma found inside that box wasn't the story she expected. Imagine going through your family's history, piecing together the puzzle of your ancestry, only to stumble upon a legal document that didn't make sense. For Emma, that document was the key to unlocking something far more disturbing than she could have ever imagined. At first, she brushed it off as a mistake, a mere formality that didn't really mean anything. But the more she dug, the more questions piled up. Why was there a birth certificate with her name on it that seemed off? Why was her mother's name missing from certain records? Why did the family tree seem so incomplete, with branches and names she didn't recognize? And the biggest question of all, why had no one ever mentioned any of this to her? Now, I want you to think about this for a second. If you discovered something that changed your understanding of your entire existence, how would you feel? Angry? Betrayed? Or maybe just lost, as if the ground beneath you had suddenly disappeared? Emma was feeling all of those emotions and more as she realized that the mystery she had uncovered was far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. She wasn't just asking about her family's past anymore. She was questioning her very own identity. For Emma, the discovery didn't stop with a simple misunderstanding or clerical error. What she uncovered shook her to the core. The more she researched, the more she realized that there was something fundamentally wrong about the way her life had been documented. Was she even legally born? Was her entire existence a legal gray area? As she struggled to make sense of what she was finding, Emma turned to her parents for answers. But when she confronted them, their reactions were far from what she expected. The truth, as it turned out, was something no one in her family had ever dared to speak of. It wasn't a story anyone wanted to tell. But once it was out in the open, there was no turning back. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This all sounds like something out of a drama series, right? A twist that seems so unbelievable that you're wondering how it could be real. But this is where it gets even more intense. As Emma continues to dig, her search doesn't just reveal a family secret, it reveals the truth about her very own existence. The deeper she goes, the more she uncovers about the legal loopholes, hidden documents, and a series of events that led her to this moment, where she was forced to face the harsh truth about her life. And believe me, This truth is so much bigger than just a legal oversight. It's a story about family, trust, identity, and the very essence of who you are. So, let me ask you again, have you ever questioned the stories you were told growing up? Because the story you're about to hear isn't just about one girl, it's about all of us. It's about the stories we believe, the truths we hold on to, and the moment when everything comes crashing down, forcing us to confront what we never knew. And here's the thing, you're going to want to stay with us until the very end of this story. You're going to want to see how it all unfolds, how Emma discovers the truth about her birth, and how it changes everything she thought she knew about herself. Trust me, by the time you finish this video, you won't be able to stop thinking about it. You'll be questioning everything you thought you knew about your own family history. So stick around, because the mystery of Emma's birth is far from over. And trust me, the answer you're searching for is not what you expect. The twists and turns are just beginning, and this is a journey you won't want to miss. Ready to find out what happens next? Stay tuned, because the truth is about to get even darker and you won't believe where it leads. Emma's discovery in the attic wasn't something that had come out of nowhere, it was the result of months, even years, of quiet curiosity. She had always been the type of person who needed to know the why behind everything. From an early age, she was fascinated by family history, intrigued by the idea that everyone had a story that came before them, one that somehow shaped who they were. For years, her parents indulged her questions, talking about their ancestors with pride, recounting tales of hardship and triumph. She'd always felt that sense of connection to the past, the comforting feeling that she was part of something bigger. But what Emma didn't realize, as she spent endless afternoons scrolling through family records and online databases, was that this search would lead her to a reality far darker than anything she could have imagined. It started innocently enough. She'd found a few missing names in the family tree, places that didn't quite match up with the stories she'd been told. A cousin, a great-aunt, even some distant relatives she hadn't heard of before, just small inconsistencies, things that raised a brow but nothing that screamed danger. As the hours ticked by, Emma's anxiety grew. She called her best friend, Lily, hoping to distract herself from the mounting pressure. But when they spoke, something about Lily's voice made her pause. It wasn't that Lily had said anything overtly suspicious, but there was a hesitation in her tone that caught Emma off guard. She'd always trusted Lily, always confided in her about everything. Yet, during their conversation, Lily's responses seemed just a little too careful, as if she were deliberately choosing her words. It felt off, but Emma couldn't pinpoint exactly why. When the conversation ended, Emma decided to reach out to Aunt Claire again. She needed answers, and Claire had always been the one person in the family who seemed to hold some knowledge of the past, even if she refused to share it. When Emma showed up at Claire's house, the usual warmth in her aunt's eyes was gone, replaced by something darker, fear, perhaps, or guilt. Claire ushered her inside quickly, almost too quickly, and as they sat down, Emma asked her outright about Michael. She hadn't expected her aunt to confirm anything, but she hoped for some clarity, a hint at what she'd uncovered. What she didn't expect was the immediate shift in Claire's demeanor. Her face drained of color, and she looked away, as if the mention of Michael was enough to shake her to the core. "Emma, I told you before, there are things you're better off not knowing." Claire's voice trembled, her hands fidgeting in her lap, but Emma wasn't going to back down this time. "Aunt Claire, please. You can't just keep hiding everything. What happened with Michael? Why does he matter?" Claire stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Stop asking questions, Emma. Please," she said, her voice shaking with urgency. "Some things are better left buried. There are people who'll do whatever it takes to make sure this stays hidden." Her words struck Emma like a slap in the face, and for the first time, she saw her aunt in a different light, someone not just hiding the truth but terrified of it. Before Emma could ask anything more, Claire's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, her expression faltering before she quickly silenced the call. "You need to leave. Now." Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "I can't help you anymore. Do you hear me? It's not safe for you to keep looking." Emma left, her mind racing, but that wasn't the end of it. In the days that followed, strange things began happening, little signs that something was wrong. Her car was tampered with one night, the tires slashed so she couldn't drive it to school. Her computer was hacked, And when she tried to open a file that contained crucial information she'd gathered, it wouldn't open. All the data was wiped clean, leaving nothing but a blank screen. It wasn't just bad luck. Someone didn't want her to keep digging. Someone who had the power to make her life incredibly difficult, maybe even dangerous if she didn't stop. Then, things took an even darker turn. Emma returned home one afternoon to find an anonymous note slipped under her door. The handwriting was unfamiliar, jagged, as if written in a hurry. It simply read, "Stop. There are forces at play that you don't understand. You're asking for trouble. Let it go." The note sent a chill down Emma's spine, and she felt the weight of the threat settle in her chest. Who was behind it? Who would go to such lengths to scare her into silence? She couldn't stop now, not after everything she'd already uncovered. But with every new obstacle, the path to the truth grew more treacherous. Someone was out there, working behind the scenes to keep her in the dark, and Emma didn't know who to trust anymore. Her parents were more distant than ever, her aunt was too afraid to help, and now it seemed like even her closest friends might be hiding something. Lily's strange behavior, Claire's panicked warnings, the mysterious note, all of it pointed to something far bigger than Emma had anticipated. She was getting closer to the truth, but with each step, the danger increased. Emma felt the walls closing in, and the weight of everything she'd discovered began to take its toll on her. It was clear now, there were secrets buried so deep that even the people closest to her had been forced to keep quiet. But the most terrifying part. She was no longer sure who the real enemy was. Was it her family, protecting their past at all costs? Or was there someone else, someone she hadn't even considered, working in the shadows to keep her from the truth? As Emma sat in her room, trying to piece together everything she had learned, something in the corner of her eye caught her attention. It was her phone, which had been buzzing non-stop for the past few minutes. She picked it up, her heart racing, as she saw the notification. It was from an unknown number, and the message simply read, "You're getting too close. We can make this stop, but you need to stop digging. Leave it alone before it's too late." Emma felt the blood drain from her face. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. And now, more than ever, she was faced with a choice. Keep searching for the truth, or walk away and risk everything she had learned so far disappearing into the dark, forgotten forever. But one thing was certain, Emma was in too deep to turn back now. Emma's hand trembled as she stared at the cryptic message on her phone. The words weren't just a warning anymore, they were a direct threat, one that felt personal, as though someone knew exactly what she was uncovering. Her mind raced, trying to connect the dots, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't make sense of it. Who would go to such lengths to keep her from the truth? Was it her parents, desperate to protect some long-buried family secret? Or was there someone more sinister pulling the strings, someone she hadn't even considered yet? The more she thought about it, the more she realized how deep the web of lies might go. But before she could process it further, her phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't the mysterious number, it was Lily. Emma had barely heard from her friend since their last conversation, and the sudden message was a surprise. The text was short, almost rushed. "We need to talk. Now." Emma hesitated. After everything that had happened, she wasn't sure if she could trust Lily anymore. The strange way Lily had acted during their last conversation lingered in the back of Emma's mind. But deep down, Emma knew that if there was anyone who could help her piece together this mess, it was Lily. She'd always been there for Emma in the past, and despite the tension, there was still a part of her that believed Lily might hold the key to unlocking more of the mystery. Emma quickly replied, setting a time to meet, but the nagging feeling in the pit of her stomach refused to go away. When she arrived at their usual spot, an old bench near the town square, she found Lily pacing back and forth, her face tense and worried. As soon as Lily saw her, she rushed over, almost looking over her shoulder as if checking to make sure no one was watching them. "Emma," Lily said, her voice low, "we need to be careful. I'm not sure who's behind all this, but they're watching us." Emma froze, the hairs on the back of her neck standing up. "What do you mean? Are you okay?" she asked, taking a step closer. Lily looked around again before whispering, "I got the same message you did." Emma's eyes widened in shock, her breath catching in her throat. "What? When?" "Last night," Lily replied, her voice shaking. I thought it was just a prank, at first. But then, I started to notice strange things happening. My phone's been acting weird, like it's being hacked, and my car got messed with. I don't know if it's connected to what you've been digging into, but it feels like someone's trying to keep us from finding the truth. Emma's mind raced, her heart pounding. She had thought she was the only one being targeted, the only one who'd gotten too close to the secret, but now Lily was saying the same things. If the message had come for her, too, then that meant whoever was behind all this wasn't just focused on Emma, they were focused on anyone who might uncover what had really happened. Lily's voice dropped to a whisper. I don't know who's behind it, but I'm scared, Emma. I think it's someone inside your family. Someone close to you. I've been getting these strange feelings, like there's more going on than we realize. Emma stared at her friend, trying to read the fear in her eyes. Could Lily have been involved in this from the start? Or was she just another pawn in a much larger game? The idea of someone in her own family being behind all of this made Emma's blood run cold, but the more she thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. The walls were closing in on her, and she had no way of knowing who she could trust anymore. Just as Emma opened her mouth to respond, a figure appeared in the distance, a man walking toward them. His pace hurried, as though he was trying to catch up with something. As he got closer, Emma's heart skipped a beat. It was Michael. The man from the letter. The one who had somehow been tied to everything she'd uncovered so far. He stopped a few feet away, panting slightly as if he had been running. Emma, you have to stop, he said, his voice shaky but urgent. You're digging into something that you don't understand. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Lily took a step back, instinctively standing between Emma and Michael. Who the hell are you, and why are you following us? She demanded, her voice sharp, defensive. Michael's gaze flicked nervously to Lily before settling on Emma. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, his clothes disheveled, his face pale. I'm trying to help you, Emma. But you need to listen to me. You have no idea what you're getting into. There are people watching every move you make. I can't protect you anymore if you keep going down this path. Emma stepped forward, her pulse racing. You've been the one behind all of this, haven't you? Sending the messages, the threats. You don't want me to know the truth. Michael's face twisted in a mixture of frustration and guilt. No, Emma. I've been trying to stop this from happening, but it's too late. Someone else is already in control. They're manipulating everything, your family, your life. You're not the only one they've targeted. Lily took another step back, her face now a mask of confusion and suspicion. What do you mean? Who is they? And why should we trust you? She demanded. Michael looked between the two girls, his eyes wide with panic. Because you don't have a choice. If you keep going, if you keep asking the questions you're asking, they'll come after you, too. They won't stop until it's over. Trust me, you don't want to know what's at the end of this road. For a long moment, Emma stood frozen, the weight of Michael's words crashing down on her. Who were they? Was Michael really trying to help, or was he just another player in this twisted game? Her mind was spinning, the pieces of the puzzle she had been desperately trying to put together now scattered like broken glass. Every new revelation only deepened the mystery, and with every step she took, the danger grew closer, more real. But as Emma looked at Michael, something shifted within her. There was something in his eyes, a mix of desperation and fear, that made her wonder if he was telling the truth. Could he be a victim, too? Was he involved, or was he just another pawn in a much darker scheme? Before Emma could ask anything else, the sound of distant footsteps caught her attention. Someone else was coming, and this time, it wasn't Michael. The figure in the distance was too tall, too familiar, someone from her family. But before she could process who it was, the figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind a sense of dread that only deepened the growing chaos around her. Emma was trapped in a game she didn't understand, and with each passing moment, the stakes were rising higher. The weight of everything Emma had learned so far hung over her like a storm cloud, and with each passing hour, the air felt thicker, heavier, as though something was looming just beyond the edge of her vision. Her heart had been racing ever since the conversation with Michael, but that wasn't what kept her awake at night. No, it was the sense that she was being watched, followed, even, and that realization only grew stronger with each new piece of the puzzle she uncovered. The messages, the cryptic threats, the strange behavior of those around her, it was all building to something she couldn't fully grasp but could feel closing in on her. And what scared her the most wasn't just the danger. It was that she had no idea who to trust anymore. The next day, she decided to take a step back, to clear her head, and went to the one place that always made her feel grounded, her grandmother's house. It wasn't too far from where she lived, tucked away at the end of a quiet street, surrounded by overgrown trees and a weathered fence that creaked in the wind. Emma had always found comfort in her grandmother's presence, a calmness in her steady voice and the warmth of her kitchen. But when she arrived that afternoon, the door was locked, and the house felt different, empty, as if it had been abandoned. She knocked several times, but no answer came. A knot formed in her stomach, and she pulled out her phone to call her grandmother, but the call went straight to voicemail. At first, she thought maybe her grandmother had just gone out for a walk or to visit a neighbor, but then the strange feeling of unease grew stronger. Something wasn't right. It wasn't until Emma walked around to the back of the house that she found the broken window, the glass shards scattered across the ground, the window frame smashed inward as if someone had forced their way inside. Panic surged through her, and she rushed to the door again, banging on it with both fists, desperate for some kind of response. There was no answer, just the hollow echo of her own frantic knocks. "Grandma," she cried out, her voice tight with fear, but it felt like the air itself had swallowed her words. She didn't think twice. Emma pulled out her phone and called 911, her hands shaking as she tried to explain what had happened. Her grandmother's house had been broken into. There was no sign of her anywhere. The dispatcher reassured her help was on the way, but as Emma stood there, staring at the broken window, the hairs on the back of her neck stood up once more. It was then that she saw it, a shadow moving in the corner of her eye, too fast for her to make out. She whipped her head around, but there was nothing there. Just the quiet hum of the trees swaying in the breeze. As the police arrived and began investigating, Emma could barely hold it together. They found no sign of forced entry except for the back window, but nothing was taken from the house. Nothing of value, nothing that seemed out of place. The strangest part? Her grandmother's personal belongings, her journals, her photos, all of it remained untouched. It was as if whoever had broken in hadn't been looking for anything material at all, but for something much more elusive, something much darker. The officers offered to help search the surrounding area, but deep down, Emma knew they wouldn't find anything. They never did. She was alone in this. Her grandmother was gone, disappeared without a trace, and no one seemed to have answers. That was when the urgency hit her like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just in danger anymore, this was real. The people she loved were being dragged into this mystery, too, and someone out there was trying to silence them all. The threat wasn't just against her. It was against everyone who knew the truth, or was even close to discovering it. As the evening descended, Emma retreated to her room, trying to make sense of the whirlwind of events, her mind reeling with possibilities. Her grandmother had always been the one person she could rely on, the one who had hinted at the family's dark past without fully revealing it. Why would someone go to such lengths to take her? And why now? Could it be related to what she'd uncovered about her own birth? The letters, the warnings, her grandmother's sudden disappearance felt like a twisted confirmation that the conspiracy she had stumbled upon was even bigger and more dangerous than she'd imagined. It wasn't just about her ancestry anymore, it was about control, power, and keeping the truth buried at any cost. As she sat in the dim light of her room, her phone buzzed again. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she saw the message. "It's not over yet. We know what you've found. Stay away from the house. It's not safe for you or anyone else who's close." The message was unsigned, just like all the others. She stared at the screen, her mind spinning. Who was sending these? How did they know where she was, what she was doing? It felt as if the walls were closing in, as if the very air was thick with danger. Her thoughts raced, bouncing from one horrifying possibility to the next. Could this all be tied to her family's past? Could someone have known she would dig deeper? Or had they been watching her for longer than she realized, setting the pieces of this trap into motion long before she'd even started looking for answers? Her phone buzzed again, and this time, it was a call from her mother. Emma's heart sank. She hadn't spoken to her mom about everything that had been going on. In fact, She hadn't told anyone the full extent of what she had discovered, and she wasn't sure how to explain it all now, especially with everything that was happening. Emma answered the phone, her voice trembling. "Mom!" "Emma," her mother's voice came through, strained and quiet. "You need to stop. Whatever you're doing, it's dangerous. There's so much I should have told you, but it's too late. It's too late now." The words hit Emma like a brick, and her body went cold. "What do you mean? What's going on, Mom?" Her mother sighed, a sound of deep exhaustion and regret. "I can't explain it right now. You're already in too deep. Just, please, trust me. Stop searching. Let it go." Before Emma could say anything more, the call abruptly ended. The sudden silence on the other end felt suffocating. Emma's mind raced. Her mother's cryptic warning only deepened the mystery. Was she in danger, too? Was her mother trying to protect her, or was she hiding something? And what did she mean when she said it was too late? Emma's pulse raced as she stood up, pacing the room. Something was off. Something was very wrong. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized just how much she still didn't know. Who could she trust? Was her family involved in this, or were they also victims of a far more sinister force? The more Emma searched for answers, the more questions piled on top of her. But with each new twist, she felt the darkness closing in tighter, its grip stronger, until she was no longer sure where the truth ended and the lies began. As the night wore on, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that no one was really who they seemed, and that the real danger was just beginning to reveal itself. The night was thick with tension, and Emma found herself on the edge of a precipice, unsure whether to leap into the unknown or turn back. She had spent days obsessing over every detail, every clue she had found, but something wasn't adding up. The fear that had been growing inside her suddenly twisted into confusion. There was something off about the whole situation, something she had missed, some detail she had overlooked. And then, as if the universe had finally decided to play its hand, the twist came, sudden, sharp, and impossible to ignore. It started when Emma received an unexpected message, not from the usual mysterious numbers, but from her father. She hadn't heard from him in weeks, and with everything going on, she wasn't sure if it was the right time to reach out to him, but curiosity got the better of her. The message was brief, almost too brief. "We need to talk. Meet me at the old cabin in the woods. Don't bring anyone." The cold knot in her stomach returned, more powerful than before. Her mind immediately raced. Why now? Why the cabin? Her father had never mentioned it in years, not since the summer of her childhood, and there was something strangely secretive about the request. The woods had always been a place of memories for Emma, memories of simpler times before everything seemed to unravel. The cabin had been where her parents had taken her for summer vacations when she was younger. It was small, secluded, surrounded by trees that blocked out the sun, and the smell of pine and old wood still lingered in her mind. As the car hummed along the winding road, Emma's thoughts were a blur. Could this really be the answer she'd been searching for? Could her father be the one to finally explain everything? Or was this just another dangerous step down a path she had no control over? When she arrived at the cabin, the silence in the air felt oppressive, as though it was waiting for something to break it. The door creaked open when she pushed it, and inside, there was a heavy, familiar scent, musty, like forgotten years. The place looked exactly as she remembered, but the air felt wrong. The floorboards groaned underfoot, and the atmosphere felt far colder than it should have been for a summer evening. And then, she saw him. Her father, sitting in the corner, his face hidden in shadow. For a brief moment, Emma thought maybe he had aged more than she expected, but when he looked up, she saw it, the cold, empty look in his eyes. It was the same gaze he'd had years ago when he'd walked out of her life empty, distant, like a man who had already checked out of the world. But what struck Emma most was the expression that flickered across his face when he saw her. It wasn't just surprise. It was fear, something she hadn't seen in him since the night he left. "Emma, I didn't think you'd find your way here," her father's voice cracked, sounding like a man who hadn't spoken in years. He stood up slowly, almost as if the weight of the room was pushing him down. "You shouldn't have come. You've put us all in danger." Nothing of value, nothing that seemed out of place. The strangest part? Her grandmother's personal belongings, her journals, her photos, all of it remained untouched. It was as if whoever had broken in hadn't been looking for anything material at all, but for something much more elusive, something much darker. The officers offered to help search the surrounding area, but deep down, Emma knew they wouldn't find anything. They never did. She was alone in this. Her grandmother was gone, disappeared without a trace, and no one seemed to have answers. That was when the urgency hit her like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just in danger anymore, this was real. The people she loved were being dragged into this mystery, too, and someone out there was trying to silence them all. The threat wasn't just against her. It was against everyone who knew the truth, or was even close to discovering it. As the evening descended, Emma retreated to her room, trying to make sense of the whirlwind of events, her mind reeling with possibilities. Her grandmother had always been the one person she could rely on, the one who had hinted at the family's dark past without fully revealing it. Why would someone go to such lengths to take her? And why now? Could it be related to what she'd uncovered about her own birth? The letters, the warnings, her grandmother's sudden disappearance felt like a twisted confirmation that the conspiracy she had stumbled upon was even bigger and more dangerous than she'd imagined. It wasn't just about her ancestry anymore, it was about control, power, and keeping the truth buried at any cost. As she sat in the dim light of her room, her phone buzzed again. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she saw the message. "It's not over yet. We know what you've found. Stay away from the house. It's not safe for you or anyone else who's close." The message was unsigned, just like all the others. She stared at the screen, her mind spinning. Who was sending these? How did they know where she was, what she was doing? It felt as if the walls were closing in, as if the very air was thick with danger. Her thoughts raced, bouncing from one horrifying possibility to the next. Could this all be tied to her family's past? Could someone have known she would dig deeper? Or had they been watching her for longer than she realized, setting the pieces of this trap into motion long before she'd even started looking for answers? Her phone buzzed again, and this time, it was a call from her mother. Emma's heart sank. She hadn't spoken to her mom about everything that had been going on. In fact, she hadn't told anyone the full extent of what she had discovered, and she wasn't sure how to explain it all now, especially with everything that was happening. Emma answered the phone, her voice trembling. "Mom." "Emma," her mother's voice came through, strained and quiet. "You need to stop. Whatever you're doing, it's dangerous. There's so much I should have told you, but it's too late. It's too late now." The words hit Emma like a brick, and her body went cold. "What do you mean? What's going on, Mom?" Her mother sighed, a sound of deep exhaustion and regret. "I can't explain it right now. You're already in too deep. Just, please, trust me. Stop searching. Let it go." Before Emma could say anything more, the call abruptly ended. The sudden silence on the other end felt suffocating. Emma's mind raced. Her mother's cryptic warning only deepened the mystery. Was she in danger, too? Was her mother trying to protect her, or was she hiding something? And what did she mean when she said it was too late? Emma's pulse raced as she stood up, pacing the room. Something was off. Something was very wrong. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized just how much she still didn't know. Who could she trust? Was her family involved in this, or were they also victims of a far more sinister force? The more Emma searched for answers, the more questions piled on top of her. But with each new twist, she felt the darkness closing in tighter, its grip stronger, until she was no longer sure where the truth ended and the lies began. As the night wore on, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that no one was really who they seemed, and that the real danger was just beginning to reveal itself. The night was thick with tension, and Emma found herself on the edge of a precipice, unsure whether to leap into the unknown or turn back. She had spent days obsessing over every detail, every clue she had found, but something wasn't adding up. The fear that had been growing inside her suddenly twisted into confusion. There was something off about the whole situation, something she had missed, some detail she had overlooked. And then, as if the universe had finally decided to play its hand, the twist came, sudden, sharp, and impossible to ignore. It started when Emma received an unexpected message, not from the usual mysterious numbers, but from her father. She hadn't heard from him in weeks, and with everything going on, she wasn't sure if it was the right time to reach out to him, but curiosity got the better of her. The message was brief, almost too brief. We need to talk. Meet me at the old cabin in the woods. Don't bring anyone. The cold knot in her stomach returned, more powerful than before. Her mind immediately raced. Why now? Why the cabin? Her father had never mentioned it in years, not since the summer of her childhood, and there was something strangely secretive about the request. The woods had always been a place of memories for Emma, memories of simpler times before everything seemed to unravel. The cabin had been where her parents had taken her for summer vacations when she was younger. It was small, secluded, surrounded by trees that blocked out the sun, and the smell of pine and old wood still lingered in her mind. As the car hummed along the winding road, Emma's thoughts were a blur. Could this really be the answer she'd been searching for? Could her father be the one to finally explain everything? Or was this just another dangerous step down a path she had no control over? When she arrived at the cabin, the silence in the air felt oppressive, as though it was waiting for something to break it. The door creaked open when she pushed it, and inside, there was a heavy, familiar scent, musty, like forgotten years. The place looked exactly as she remembered, but the air felt wrong. The floorboards groaned underfoot, and the atmosphere felt far colder than it should have been for a summer evening. And then, she saw him. Her father, sitting in the corner, his face hidden in shadow. For a brief moment, Emma thought maybe he had aged more than she expected, but when he looked up, she saw it, the cold, empty look in his eyes. It was the same gaze he'd had years ago when he'd walked out of her life empty, distant, like a man who had already checked out of the world. But what struck Emma most was the expression that flickered across his face when he saw her. It wasn't just surprise. It was fear, something she hadn't seen in him since the night he left. Emma, I didn't think you'd find your way here, her father's voice cracked, sounding like a man who hadn't spoken in years. He stood up slowly, almost as if the weight of the room was pushing him down. You shouldn't have come. You've put us all in danger. Put us in danger? What are you talking about? Emma demanded, her heart pounding in her chest. She was tired of cryptic messages, of half-truths and vague warnings. What's going on? Why have you been hiding all of this from me? Her father looked at her, his eyes haunted, the words on the tip of his tongue, but they didn't come out. Instead, he motioned for her to sit, his hands shaking. You think this is about your family history, don't you? About your birth, your ancestry. But you're wrong. It was never about that. The truth is, it's not about your bloodline at all. He paused, his voice dropping lower. You weren't supposed to know this, Emma. It wasn't meant to be part of your life. But now that you've started digging, there's no turning back. Emma felt a chill crawl up her spine. What do you mean? What wasn't meant to be part of my life? Her father's eyes hardened. I wasn't the one who raised you. I'm not your father, Emma. The words hit her like a tidal wave, knocking the breath from her lungs. Her body froze as if time itself had stopped. The man who had been her father for 18 years, the one she'd trusted, the one she had tried so desperately to understand, wasn't her father at all. I'm sorry, Emma, he whispered, his voice filled with regret. But the truth is much worse than you realize. You're not who you think you are. Her head swam. The words didn't seem real. What do you mean I'm not who I think I am? She tried to stay calm, but the shock was like a storm crashing over her. Then who am I? Her father looked away, his face twisted with guilt. I wasn't supposed to tell you this. But now that you know too much, I can't hide it anymore. Your real parents, they aren't who you think either. There was a deal, Emma. A trade. You weren't just adopted. You were bought. Emma's world tilted on its axis. The foundation beneath her cracked, and she could hardly keep her footing. Everything she thought she knew about herself, the family, her identity, was built on lies. She had always thought her birth was a mystery, a puzzle that needed to be solved. But this was beyond anything she could have imagined. Her real parents weren't her parents at all. They had sold her. Before she could speak, her father stepped closer, grabbing her arm. You don't understand, Emma. This isn't just some dark family secret. There are people involved, powerful people, who can't let you know the truth. Not just about your birth, but about everything. You're part of something much bigger than you realize, and now you've already stepped too far into their world. They're watching you, and if you keep going, it won't just be your grandmother they take. It'll be you, too. Emma's heart was racing, her breaths shallow as she tried to process the enormity of the revelation. Everything she had been searching for, everything she had believed about her past, had just been ripped apart, torn down by a single sentence. There was no turning back now. As her father spoke, Emma's phone buzzed again. She didn't want to check it, not now, but she couldn't ignore it. The message on the screen was simple: they know you know. You're already too far gone. It's too late. The fear in her father's eyes deepened, and his grip on her arm tightened. Emma, please listen to me. You have to stop. The people you've been looking for, they've been waiting for you to find out the truth. Now they'll come for you. Emma's head spun. She wanted answers, wanted to understand what was happening, but as the darkness in the room seemed to close in around her, she realized she was already in far deeper than she could have ever imagined. The pieces of the puzzle were slipping away from her grasp, and every turn she made only led her closer to a truth that was more dangerous than she could ever have predicted. The real danger wasn't just her ancestry, it was the people who controlled it, the ones who had orchestrated her entire life, and now that she had started asking questions, they would stop at nothing to keep her from uncovering the rest. The days that followed felt like a blur for Emma. She couldn't escape the constant weight of the truth that had been thrust upon her, the realization that everything she thought she knew about herself, about her family, was a lie. Her father's confession had shattered her sense of reality, and the terrifying part was that she didn't know who to turn to for answers. There was no one left she could trust. Every time she thought she was getting closer to uncovering the truth, another layer was peeled back, revealing something even darker. It felt like she was standing on the edge of an abyss, and no matter which direction she took, it was impossible to know if she was falling or if she was just about to find the bottom. Her phone had become a constant source of dread. The messages kept coming, each one more cryptic and menacing than the last. You're too close to the truth. They're already watching you. She'd tried blocking the numbers, but they seemed to know exactly how to get to her. It wasn't just the mysterious messages, it was the feeling that she was constantly being observed, that every step she took was being tracked. The tension in her chest never seemed to dissipate, and every knock on the door, every unfamiliar car that passed by her window, made her jump. It wasn't paranoia anymore. It was the reality of the situation. Someone, or something, was after her, and it wasn't going to stop until she stopped looking for answers. But Emma couldn't stop. Not now. Not when she had come so far. It was one evening, a few days after her father's revelation, when the ultimatum came. She had been sitting in her room, staring at the messages, trying to decipher the patterns, when there was a knock on her door. She knew it wasn't just another passerby, it was someone with a message, someone who either had answers or was going to stop her from getting them. When she opened the door, she was met with Michael. The last person she expected to see, yet somehow, it felt like the one person she knew she could count on. He had been the one constant in her life, the one who had been with her through the good and bad, always there when she needed him. But tonight, as she looked into his eyes, she saw something different, a coldness, a hesitation that she hadn't noticed before. Michael, she asked, her voice shaking. What are you doing here? What's going on? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped into the room, closing the door behind him with a soft click. His hands were trembling, his eyes darting to the corners of the room as if making sure no one else was listening. The air between them was thick, heavy with the unsaid. Finally, he spoke, his voice low, almost as if he was afraid someone might overhear. Emma, you need to stop. It's not safe for you anymore. Her pulse quickened. What do you mean? I can't stop now, not when I know the truth. You don't understand what's been happening. He shook his head, his face pale. You don't get it, do you? The truth doesn't matter anymore. They'll come for you, Emma. They'll come for everyone. It's not just about you, it's about your whole family. You've already dug too deep. If you keep going, it's not just you that will get hurt. It's everyone around you. Emma felt her chest tighten. She had been expecting something like this, but hearing him say it out loud was a different thing entirely. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Who are you really working for, Michael? What is all of this? He took a step back, his face darkening. I'm trying to protect you. You think you're getting closer to the truth, but all you're doing is putting yourself in more danger. The people you're looking for, they're not going to stop. And if you keep digging, they'll take you out. I've seen it happen before. Emma's mind raced. The betrayal in Michael's eyes felt like a punch to the gut. Who are these people? Why can't you just tell me the truth? Michael's eyes softened for a brief moment, as if he was considering telling her everything. But then, he hardened again, his voice cold and resolute. It's too dangerous for you to know. I was trying to protect you. I'm doing this for you, Emma. But if you don't stop now, if you don't walk away from all of this, I won't be able to protect you anymore. Her heart hammered in her chest. The truth she had been chasing, the answers she had thought were within her reach, were slipping through her fingers like sand. You're telling me to stop, she asked, the words barely leaving her mouth before the weight of them hit her. You're asking me to turn my back on everything? On the truth? On what happened to my grandmother? To my family? Michael didn't answer. He just stared at her, his eyes filled with a pain she had never seen before. And then he spoke the words that sent everything spiraling into chaos. If you keep going, Emma, I'll have to make a choice. And so will you. You can either keep digging, keep searching for the truth and put your life and everyone you love in danger, or you can walk away and live the life you've always known, untouched. The people behind all of this, they'll leave you alone. But only if you stop now. If you don't, you'll never be safe again. There's no going back. The silence between them was deafening. The air was thick with tension, the weight of the decision pressing down on Emma. On one hand, she had the truth, the answers she had desperately longed for, the key to understanding everything that had happened to her. On the other, she had safety, freedom from the threat that hung over her, from the people who had been watching her, hunting her from the shadows. The choice before her was impossible. How could she give up the truth, the one thing that might finally set her free, just to stay safe? Was her life worth more than her pursuit of justice for her grandmother, for herself? Could she really turn her back on everything she had uncovered? As the seconds ticked by, Emma's mind spun, the weight of her decision becoming unbearable. She wanted to scream, to push Michael away, to demand answers. But she couldn't. Not now. Not when she was standing on the edge of everything she had ever known and everything she had ever believed in. She looked at Michael one last time, seeing the same fear in his eyes that mirrored her own. She didn't know who to trust anymore. She didn't know who was lying and who was telling the truth. And the hardest part was that, in that moment, she realized that she was no longer sure who she could save and who might already be lost. The weight of the decision pressed down on Emma like a vice, but before she could say another word, the phone in her pocket buzzed violently, cutting through the thick tension in the room. Her heart skipped a beat as she pulled it out, only to freeze when she saw the name on the screen, Detective Harris. The same detective she had been trying to trust, the one who had been helping her piece together the mystery. It felt like the last string of hope she had left, but something in the back of her mind told her this call wasn't going to bring the answers she wanted. With a deep breath, she answered, her voice shaky but determined. Detective Harris, what's going on? She asked, but her question was cut off by the sharp tone in his voice. Emma, you need to listen to me carefully, he said, his voice strained. I've been trying to protect you, but you're not hearing me. This isn't just about your family anymore. It's bigger, much bigger. You've stumbled into something far darker than you could have imagined. And now, it's too late. Her pulse raced as she held the phone to her ear, trying to process what he was saying. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Her voice trembled, fear creeping in as every instinct told her to run, to hide, to do anything to avoid the storm that was quickly closing in around her. The people you're after, Emma, they're not just involved in your family's past. This is a global network, a web of people who have been orchestrating these kinds of things for decades. Your birth, your adoption, it's all part of a much larger plan. And the truth is, they've been watching you this whole time. You were never meant to find out. Emma's stomach twisted. Wait. Are you saying this was all planned? That I've been part of some scheme? Yes, exactly, Harris continued, his voice now tinged with desperation. You've been a pawn in something that's far bigger than you or your family. These people, they have connections everywhere, in places you can't even imagine. They've manipulated families, controlled entire cities, and now they're coming for you because you've exposed too much. They'll stop at nothing to silence you. And they'll use anyone to do it. The words felt like a punch to the gut. Emma had always felt like something was off, like there was a shadow over her life that she couldn't escape. But now, hearing the scope of it, she understood the gravity of what she had stumbled into. This wasn't just about her family, her bloodline, it was about power, control, and something far more dangerous than she could have ever fathomed. Who are these people? Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. How do I stop them? How do I stop this? There was a long pause before Harris spoke again, his voice quieter now, almost apologetic. I don't know if you can. They've already infiltrated every part of the system. They have eyes everywhere. They're too powerful. The moment you start digging, they pull the strings. They control the narrative. They control everything. Emma's mind spun as the implications sank in. Everything she had done, every step she had taken toward the truth, had been anticipated by them. They had known she would come for answers. They had known exactly how to manipulate her, how to use her as part of their plan. Her family's lies, her father's betrayal, it was all just a small piece in a much larger, more insidious puzzle. Just as Emma opened her mouth to respond, the door to her room suddenly slammed open, and her heart lurched as she turned to see Michael standing there, his face pale, his eyes wild with fear. You need to leave. Now, he said, rushing toward her with a sense of urgency that made her stomach drop. They know we're here. They know you're onto them. They're coming for you, Emma. We don't have time to argue. We have to go right now. Before she could even process what he was saying, there was a loud bang on the window, and she whipped her head around to see a shadowy figure standing outside, staring in with cold, calculating eyes. It wasn't just one person. It was several, surrounding the house, moving in closer. They were everywhere. Michael grabbed her arm and yanked her toward the back door, panic in his movements. I'm sorry, Emma. I never wanted any of this to happen. I didn't want to get you involved, but now it's too late. They've already found us. We need to go now. She felt the terror surge through her veins as she glanced at her phone, the screen still lit up with the call from Detective Harris. But when she checked, the call had ended. The messages from him were gone too, replaced by new ones, encrypted, ominous, threatening. She knew then that it wasn't just the people behind her family's past that were after her. There was a larger force at play, one that had been carefully orchestrating every event in her life. She had been a target long before she ever realized it. As she followed Michael through the back door, her mind raced with the realization that nothing was as it seemed. The very people she had trusted, her father, Michael, even Detective Harris, were all part of a twisted web of deception. The conspiracy was bigger than she ever thought possible, and now, no matter what she did, she was a pawn caught in the middle of it. The panic set in as she realized she had no choice. There was nowhere left to turn. The people who had controlled her life, who had controlled her every move, were closing in, and they were more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. Every step she took felt like a step deeper into a trap. The truth was no longer something she could chase, it had become the most dangerous weapon they could use against her. We need to move fast, Michael said, dragging her through the backyard, away from the house, away from everything she had ever known. There's a place, an old warehouse we can hide out in. It's not much, but it's better than being out here in the open. You can't go back. You can't trust anyone. Emma didn't know what to say. Her mind was racing, and every breath felt like it could be her last. The danger, the urgency, the raw emotion of it all made everything feel surreal. She was no longer the person she had been just days ago, the girl looking for answers, seeking the truth. Now, she was someone on the run, forced to confront a conspiracy that had deep roots and terrifying consequences. The people after her weren't just playing a game, they were playing for keeps. And if she didn't make the right choices now, everything she had fought for would be lost forever. The world around her seemed to close in, and with every passing moment, the stakes grew higher. The question now wasn't whether she could stop the conspiracy, it was whether she could survive it long enough to even have a chance at stopping them. The night was heavy, thick with the scent of rain and the distant hum of an electric storm that seemed to match the chaos in Emma's mind. Her heart pounded in her chest as she and Michael made their way through the darkened streets, shadows stretching long and menacing across the cracked pavement. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The shadows weren't just the storm, no, it was something far more sinister. As they moved, the echo of footsteps behind them seemed to grow louder with each passing moment. Emma's breath hitched, her body tense, every instinct screaming that they were running out of time. They had to reach the warehouse. It was their only hope now, their last refuge before the walls closed in for good. The only problem was that they didn't know who to trust anymore. Michael had been her ally, the one person she thought she could rely on, but now after the confession, after the betrayal, it felt like nothing was as it seemed. She could feel her trust in him slipping away, her eyes darting to the street behind them, constantly scanning for any signs of movement. But she had no choice. They had to keep going. The truth was within her grasp, and despite everything, she couldn't stop now. As they reached the alley leading to the warehouse, a flicker of movement caught Emma's eye. She froze, grabbing Michael's arm tightly. He spun around, his eyes wide with alarm, but when he saw nothing, he dismissed it, pulling her into the shadows. It was too late to turn back, too late to question their every move. They had come this far, and there was no turning back now. The door to the warehouse creaked open, and they slipped inside, the damp air heavy with the scent of mold and dust. The dim light barely illuminated the interior, casting everything in a ghostly haze. Emma's pulse quickened as they moved deeper into the space, her eyes scanning for any sign of life. But there was no one, at least, not at first. "Stay close," Michael whispered, his voice tight. She nodded, heart racing, as they continued deeper into the warehouse. But just as she was starting to think they might be safe, they heard it, the soft creak of a floorboard, a shuffle of footsteps. Someone was here. And then, like a shadow emerging from the darkness, a figure stepped forward, his face half hidden beneath the brim of a hat. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She recognized him immediately. "Detective Harris," she breathed, her voice filled with disbelief. "He wasn't supposed to be here, not like this." "Emma," he said, his voice eerily calm, almost cold. "You should have stopped when you had the chance. But now you've gone too far. There's no turning back." The room seemed to close in around them. Emma's mind raced. It wasn't supposed to be him. He had been the one person she thought was still on her side, the one person who could help her find the truth. But now, standing before her, his eyes dark with something she couldn't quite read, she realized the awful truth. He had been playing her all along. She gasped, the betrayal cutting through her like a knife. "You were part of this from the beginning, weren't you? You never wanted to help me. You just wanted to keep me quiet." Detective Harris's lips curled into a cold smile. "You think I'm the villain, don't you? The truth is, I'm just a pawn in this too. You're playing with forces that go beyond anything you can understand. You were never meant to uncover the truth. The moment you started digging, you sealed your fate. I've been trying to protect you, Emma. From them. From what they'll do to you." Emma shook her head, her hands trembling. "Who are they? What do you want from me? What's the point of all this?" Harris took a step closer, his voice low and almost sympathetic. "The point, Emma, is control. Control over everything. Your family, your bloodline, it was never about love or heritage. It was about power. The people who've been controlling your life for all these years, manipulating you, have been using you as a means to an end. You were never meant to be free. They made sure of that." Emma's mind spun. The words felt like a storm crashing through her, breaking down the walls of everything she thought she knew. The conspiracy had been bigger than just her family. It wasn't just about her origins or the lies her parents had told her. It was a vast, deeply embedded system of control, one that reached into every corner of society. And Harris was right, she had been nothing more than a pawn in it. But she couldn't stop now. The truth was out there, and she would find it, no matter the cost. Before she could respond, Michael stepped forward, his hand slipping into his coat pocket. "I told you, Emma. I tried to warn you." Emma turned to him, her heart skipping a beat. The look on his face was something she hadn't seen before, a hard, cold determination that chilled her to the bone. "Michael," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Don't make me do this," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I'm sorry. I really am. But I've made my choice." Emma's breath caught in her throat as he pulled something from his pocket. A gun. She froze, her heart pounding as the world seemed to go still around her. "What are you doing, Michael?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "You're not a part of this. You're not like them." His eyes flickered with something, regret, pain, fear, but it was gone as quickly as it came. "I never wanted it to be this way, but they've got me too, Emma. They've got my family. My brother, he's gone. They'll do the same to you if you keep pushing." "Michael," she whispered, taking a step back, her mind racing. "This isn't you. You can fight them. You can still help me." But Michael didn't respond. His hand was steady, the gun aimed straight at her chest. "I'm sorry. I really am." The room felt like it was closing in on her. Emma's thoughts blurred, everything happening too fast. Betrayal. Lies. Her family. Everything she had fought for. Was it all a game to them? Did they ever care? She didn't know who she could trust anymore. Suddenly, the air crackled with a new presence. A shadow moved at the door of the warehouse, the sound of footsteps growing louder. And then, through the darkness, another figure emerged, an older man with sharp eyes and a presence that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. He was wearing a suit, his tie perfectly knotted, but there was something cold in his expression, something calculating. Well, the man said, his voice smooth, almost mocking. "It looks like you've found the truth, Emma. Too bad it doesn't matter anymore." "Who are you?" Emma demanded, her voice trembling but defiant. The man smiled, and for a moment, it was like the entire world had tilted. "The one who's been pulling the strings all along. The one who made sure you would get this far, and no further." And in that moment, everything fell into place. The betrayal, the lies, the webs of deceit, it wasn't just about her family. It wasn't just about power. It was about her. She had been the key all along, the person who could unravel everything or destroy it. As the man stepped forward, the gun still aimed at Emma's chest, she understood the final twist. The conspiracy was never just about controlling her family. It was about controlling her. They had been setting her up for this very moment, manipulating her from the start. The truth she had been seeking wasn't just dangerous, it was the very thing they needed to keep hidden, buried, forever. And Emma realized then that the final battle wasn't about survival, it was about choosing who would live with the truth, and who would die for it. The warehouse was silent now, the tension in the air thick with the weight of what had just happened. Emma stood in the middle of it all, her heart pounding in her chest, her mind still trying to piece together the chaos she had just experienced. Michael, the man she had once trusted more than anyone, stood motionless a few feet away, the gun still clenched in his trembling hand. Her breath came in shallow gasps, the sting of betrayal cutting deeper than anything she had ever known. The older man, the one who had been pulling the strings from the shadows, stepped forward, his sharp gaze never leaving her face. There was no triumph in his eyes, no satisfaction, just the cold, unwavering certainty of someone who had already won. Emma could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her, every decision she'd made in the past days, all the steps that had led her to this point. The truth was out there, but it wasn't the one she had been seeking. The secrets buried in her family's past, the twisted web of lies, the conspiracy, everything had been leading to this conclusion. She had become the very thing they feared, the key to their empire of control, and now it was clear, they were prepared to do whatever it took to silence her. The truth she had uncovered had cost her everything, and now the question was whether there was anything left worth fighting for. "Emma," Michael's voice cracked, breaking through the silence. He lowered the gun slightly, his eyes filled with regret and confusion. "I didn't want this. I swear, I didn't know it would get this far. I thought I could protect you. But I was wrong. I thought we had a chance." Emma's eyes softened, the anger and betrayal still fresh but mingled with a deep sorrow. She had spent so much time searching for the truth, but now she realized something. The truth wasn't something that could just be uncovered and expected to set her free. Sometimes, it was a burden, something you couldn't escape no matter how hard you tried. And Michael, he had been caught in that same web of manipulation, just like her, just like everyone else. He wasn't the villain here, he was another victim. "I'm not sure there was ever a chance for us," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I've been running for so long, chasing after answers that didn't even exist. And now I don't know what to believe anymore." The older man, still standing in the shadows, chuckled softly. "It's too late for any of you to turn back. You're in this now, Emma. You were always going to be part of this, whether you knew it or not. It was inevitable. All the pieces were in place long before you ever started asking questions." His words rang in her ears like a death sentence, but Emma refused to let them define her. She wasn't just a piece in their game anymore. She had fought for the truth, no matter how twisted it had become, and she had a choice now. A choice to walk away, to forget everything, or a choice to take control. She wasn't sure if there was any hope left for the world she had known, but she knew one thing: she couldn't let this be the end of her story. Without warning, she stepped forward, toward the older man, her gaze unwavering. She wasn't going to let them win, not without a fight. Michael's hand shot out, trying to stop her, but she shook him off, her voice calm but firm. "I don't know who you think you are, but you've underestimated me. You've underestimated all of us." The man's face hardened, but Emma wasn't backing down. This wasn't about her survival anymore. It was about something bigger, something that couldn't be controlled, something that couldn't be manipulated by the people who had been pulling the strings for so long. The conspiracy was vast, yes, but it wasn't invincible. It had cracks, weaknesses. And Emma had found them. The older man took a slow, deliberate step back, his eyes flicking nervously to the shadows where his people had been watching. Emma knew then that this was it, the final showdown. This was her moment to either take a stand or walk away. And walking away was no longer an option. "You've lost," she said, the words ringing in the air with an unexpected sense of finality. "It's over." Before the man could react, the sound of sirens cut through the tension, louder and closer than ever before. The older man's face twisted in frustration, his jaw tightening as the realization set in that his time had run out. He turned to flee, but Emma's eyes never left him. She knew the game was finally over for him. He could hide, but not forever. The truth had a way of catching up to those who tried to bury it. As he disappeared into the darkness, Emma stood frozen for a moment, feeling the weight of everything she had uncovered. The mystery was solved, but it was no longer the neat, satisfying answer she had imagined. The conspiracy wasn't just about power, it was about control over the very people who dared to question it. And as the rain began to fall, washing away the dust of the past, Emma knew that the fight wasn't over. It couldn't be. There were still pieces of the puzzle left, still truths to be uncovered. But as she looked at Michael one last time, something in her shifted. He wasn't her enemy. He never had been. He was a casualty of something far bigger than either of them could have imagined. The only question left was what they would do now with the truth they had found. Could they rebuild? Could they trust each other again? The world outside the warehouse seemed to hold its breath, the storm still raging in the distance, the sirens growing louder. Emma wasn't sure of the answers to those questions. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was no longer just a pawn in someone else's game. She had the power to decide what came next. As she and Michael walked out into the rain, their steps slow but steady, Emma felt the weight of the past lift from her shoulders, if only a little. The truth wasn't always kind, and it didn't always lead to the answers we wanted. But it was hers now, and that was enough. For now. And in the distance, barely a whisper in the night, something shifted. Something moved in the shadows. The storm wasn't over. It was only just beginning. But Emma was ready.